Hi, boys and girls. So yesterday we ended the BFG with Sophie getting upset that all the other giants were going to eat the kids in England. So she just kept saying we have to do something, and the BFG said there's nothing we can do. And this chapter is called The Great Plan. We absolutely got to stop them, Sophie cried. Put me back in your pocket quick, and we'll chase after them and warn everyone in England that they're coming. Redunculous and possible, the BFG said. They is going 2 times as fast as me, and they is finishing their guzzle before we is even halfway. But we can't just sit here and do nothing, Sophie cried. How many girls and boys are they going to eat tonight? Many, said the BFG. The flesh lump-eating giant alone has the most squackling wopsy appetite. Will he snatch them out of their bed while they're sleeping? Like peas out of a pottle, the BFG said. Oh, I can't bear to think of it, Sophie cried. Then don't, said the BFG. For years and years, I is sitting here on this very rock every night after night when they is galloping away. And I is feeling so sad for all the human beings they is going to gobble up. But I has had to get used to it. There is nothing I can do. If I wasn't a twitchy little runt giant, only 24 feet high, then I would be stopping them. But that is absolutely out the window. Do you always know where they're going? Sophie asked. Yes, always, said the BFG. Every night they is yelling at me as they go boodling past. The other day, they was yelling, we is off to Mrs. Sippy and Miss Zori to guzzle them both. Disgusting, Sophie said. I hate them. She and the big friendly giant sat quietly side by side on the blue rock in the gathering dusk. Sophie had never felt so helpless in her life. After a while, she stood up and cried out, I can't stand it. Just think of all those poor girls and poor boys who are going to be eaten alive in just a few hours. We can't just sit here and do nothing. We've got to go after those brutes. No, the BFG said. We must, Sophie cried. Why won't you go? The BFG sighed and shook his head firmly. I has told you 5 or 6 times, he said, and the 3rd time will be the last. I is never showing myself to human beings. I want to point something out there that was funny to me. Maybe it was funny to you too. He said, I has told you 5 or 6 times, and the 3rd time will be the last. So it should be the what? 7th time, right? 5, 6, and then 7th time. Why not? Why don't you want to be seen by human beings? Sophie asked. If I do, they will be putting me in the zoo with all the jiggy-raffs and caterpillars. Oh, nonsense, Sophie said. And they will be sending you straight back to an orphanage, the BFG went on. Grown-up human beings is not famous for their kindnesses. They is all squaddle rotters and grink sludgers. That simply isn't true, Sophie cried angrily. Some of them are very kind indeed. Who? Said the BFG. Name one. Well, the Queen of England, Sophie said. You can't call her a squiddle rotter or a grink sludger. Well, said the BFG, you can't call her a squick peep or a not mucher either, Sophie said, getting angrier and angrier. The flesh lump eater is longing dearly to guzzle her up, said the BFG, smiling a little now. Who? The Queen? Sophie cried, aghast, which means like she's shocked. Yes, the BFG answered. Flush Lump Eater says he is never eating a queen, and he thinks perhaps she has an especially scrumdiddlyumptious flavor. How dare he? Sophie cried. But Flesh Lump Eater said there's too many soldiers around her palace, and he durst try it. Okay, and I'm going to show you this picture real quick before I turn the page. So there is the BFG and Sophie sitting on the rock and just talking. He better not, Sophie said. He is also saying he would very much like to guzzle one of the soldiers in his pretty red suit, but he is worried about those big black furry hats that he is wearing. He thinks they might be sticking in his throat. Well, I hope he chokes, Sophie said. Flesh Lump Eater is a very careful giant, the BFG said. Sophie was silent for a few moments. Then suddenly, in a voice filled with excitement, she cried out, I've got it! By golly, I think I've got it! Got what? Asked the BFG. The answer, cried Sophie. We'll go to the Queen. It's a terrific idea. If I went and I told the Queen all about these disgusting man-eating giants, I'm sure she'd do something about it. The BFG looked down at her sadly and shook his head. She is never believing you, he said. Never in a month of Mondays. Well, I think she would, said Sophie. Never, the BFG said. It is sounding such a wonky tall story. The Queen will be laughing and saying, oh, what awful rubble squash. She would not, said Sophie. Of course she would, the BFG said. I have told you before that human beings is simply not believing in giants. Well, then it's up to us to find a way to make her believe in giants, Sophie said. And how is you even getting to see the Queen anyway? The BFG asked. Now, hold on a second, Sophie said. Just you hold on a second, because I've got another idea. Oh, your ideas is full of crodswoggle, the BFG said. Not this one, Sophie said. You say that if we tell the Queen, she would never believe us? I is certain she would not, the BFG said. Well, we aren't going to tell her, Sophie said excitedly. We don't have to tell her. We'll make her dream it. Okay, when you think in your head, don't think out loud. How are they going to make the Queen dream about giants? Think in your head, don't think out loud. All right, let's see if your prediction is correct. That is an even more froth-bungling suggestion, the BFG said. Dreams is lots of fun, but nobody is believing in dreams either. You is only believing in a dream while you is actually dreaming it. But as soon as you is waking, you is saying, oh, thank goodness that was only a dream. Don't worry about that part of it, Sophie said. I can fix that. Never can you fix it, the BFG said. I can, I swear I can't. But first of all, let me ask you a very important question. Here it is. Can you make a person dream absolutely anything in the world? Anything you like, the BFG said proudly. So if I said I wanted to dream that I was flying in a bathtub with silver wings, could you make me dream it? I could, said the BFG. But how? You obviously don't have exactly that dream in your collection. I do not, said the BFG, but I could soon be mixing it up. How can you mix it up? Asked Sophie. Well, it is a little bit like mixing a cake, the BFG said. If you was putting the right amounts of all the different things into it, you is making the cake come out any way you want it. Sugary, spongy, curranty, Christmassy, or grobswitchy. It is all the same with dreams. Ooh, go on, Sophie said. I has a dillions of dreams on my shelves, right or left? Right, Sophie said. I has dreams about bathtubs, lots of them. I also has dreams about silver wings. I has dreams about flying. So all I has to do is mix those dreams together in the proper way, and I is very quickly making a dream where you is flying in a bathtub with silver wings. I see what you mean, Sophie said. But I didn't know you could mix one dream with another. Oh, dreams like being mixed, the BFG answered. They is getting very lonesome all by themselves in those glassy bottles. Right, Sophie said. Now then, do you have dreams about the Queen of England? Lots of them, the BFG said. And about giants? Sophie asked. Of course, the BFG said. And about giants eating people? Sophie asked. Oh, swiggles of them, said the BFG. And what about little girls like me? Do you have dreams about little girls like me? Those is the most commonest of all, the BFG said. I has bottles and bottles about little girls. And you could mix them up just as I want you to? Sophie asked, getting more and more excited. Of course, the BFG said. But how is this helping us? I think you is barking up the wrong dog. Okay, let's talk about that phrase, barking up the wrong dog. Don't say it out loud, but if you think you know it, raise your hand, but don't say it out loud. Ella thinks she knows it. What do you think it is?
I think it's like she's thinking of the wrong thing.
He is thinking of the wrong thing. He's actually thinking of the phrase that is barking up the wrong tree. Like you're looking in the wrong place. Lost my thought. Okay, here we go. Now, hold on, Sophie said. Listen carefully. I want you to mix a dream which you will blow into the Queen of England's bedroom when she is asleep. And this is how it will go. Now, hang on a minute, the BFG said. How is I possibly going to get near enough to the Queen of England's bedroom to blow in my dream? You is talking dumb silly. Oh, I'll tell you that later, Sophie said. For the moment, please listen carefully. Here is the dream I want you to mix. Are you paying attention? Very close, said the BFG. I want the Queen to dream that 9 disgusting giants, each one about 50 feet tall, are galloping off to England in the night. She must dream their names as well. What are their names again? Flesh Lump Eater, said the BFG, Man Hugger, Bone Cruncher, Child Chewer, Meat Dripper, Gizzard Gulper, Maid Masher, Blood Bottler, and the Butcher Boy. Yes, let her dream about all of those names, Sophie said. And let her dream that they will be creeping into England in the depths of the witching hour and snatching little boys and little girls from their beds. Let her dream that they will be reaching into the bedroom windows and pulling the little boys and the little girls out of their beds, and then Sophie paused. Do they eat them on the spot or do they carry them away first? She asked. Well, they is usually just popping them straight into their mouths like popcorn, the BFG said. Put that in the dream, Sophie said, and then the dream must say that when their tummies are full, they will go galloping back to giant country where no one can find them. Is that all? The BFG said. Oh, certainly not, Sophie said. Then you must explain to the Queen in her dream that there is a big, friendly giant who can tell her where all these beasts are living, so that she can send her soldiers and her armies to capture them once and for all. And now let her dream one last and very important thing. Let her dream that there is a girl called Sophie sitting on her windowsill who will tell her where the big friendly giant is hiding. Where is he hiding? Asked the BFG. Oh, we'll come to that later, Sophie said. So the Queen dreams her dream, right? Right, said the BFG. Then she wakes up and the first thing she thinks is, oh, what a horrid dream. I am so glad that was only a dream. And then she looks up from her pillow and what does she see? What does she see? The BFG asked, excited. Well, she sees a little girl called Sophie sitting on her windowsill right there in real life, right before her eyes. How is you going to be sitting on the Queen's windowsill, may I beg? Asked the BFG. You are going to put me there, Sophie said, and that's the lovely part about it. If someone dreams that there is a little girl sitting on her windowsill, and then they wake up and they see the little girl really sitting there, that's a dream come true, is it not? I is beginning to see where you is driving to, the BFG said. If the Queen is knowing that part of her dream is true, then perhaps she is believing that the rest of it is true as well. Yes, that's about it, Sophie said. But I shall have to convince her that myself. You said you was wanting the dream to say that there is a big friendly giant who is also going to talk to the Queen? Absolutely, Sophie said. You must. You are the only one who can tell her where to find the other giants. How is I meeting the Queen? Asked the BFG. I is not wanting to be shooted by her soldiers. The soldiers are only in the front of the palace, Sophie said. At the back, there's a huge garden, and there are no soldiers in there at all. There is a very high wall with spikes on it all around the garden to stop people from climbing in. But you can just simply walk right over it. How is you knowing all of this about the Queen's palace? Asked the BFG. Well, last year I was in a different orphanage, Sophie said. I was in London, and we used to go for walks all around the Queen's palace. Is you helping me to find this palace? The BFG asked. I has never dared to go hide and sneaking around London in my life. Yes, I'll show you the way, said Sophie confidently. I is frightened of London, the BFG said. Oh, don't be, said Sophie. It's full of tiny dark streets, and there are very few people about in the witching hour. The BFG picked up Sophie in between one finger and his thumb and placed her gently in the palm of his hand. Is the Queen's palace very big? He asked. I'll show you this picture. It's Sophie sitting in the BFG's hand. Huge, Sophie said. Then how is we finding the right bedroom? Well, that's up to you, Sophie said. You're supposed to be an expert on that sort of thing. And you is absolutely sure the Queen will not put me in a zoo with all the caterpillars? Oh, of course she won't, Sophie said. You'll be a hero, and you'll never have to eat a snozzcumber again. Sophie saw the BFG's eyes widen. He licked his lips. You mean it? He said, you really mean it? No more disgusted snozzcumbers? You couldn't even get one if you wanted to, Sophie said. Humans don't grow those things. That did it. The BFG got to his feet. When is you wanting me to mix this special dream? He asked. Now, Sophie said. At what? Well, when is we going to see the Queen? He asked. Tonight, Sophie said, as soon as you get this dream mixed. Tonight? Cried the BFG. Why such in a flush-bunking flurry? Well, if we can't save tonight's children, we can save tomorrow's, Sophie said. What is more, I am getting famished. I haven't had a thing to eat in 24 hours. Well, then we better get crackling, said the BFG, moving back towards the cave. Sophie kissed him on the tip of his thumb. I knew you'd do it, she said. Come on, let's hurry. All right, and the next chapter is called Mixing the Dream. So we will go to that chapter tomorrow. Boys and girls, I hope you have a great afternoon, and I hope you are on your very, very best behavior for Miss Clark. Bye.